Arkham City's Catwoman episodes gave us a Two-Face boss sequence where we had a health bar and it felt substantial, but in Arkham Knight, he's just some guy with a big gun. The Batman-Harvey relationship has been built up in the Arkhamverse, so there's a serious missed opportunity here to make Two-Face feel ingrained in Batman's story before saying goodbye to him forever.
Tell them what you've done.
Hello, world. No, that's too
Go on. Just be yourself.
Just like hell, the path to Kirk Langstrom's mutation is paved with good intentions. He and his wife Francine wanted to cure chronic deafness with genetic splicing, and what better animal to use than a bat? It's not an outlandish idea. Numerous medicines and treatments have come from scientific study of the little fuzzball, but Langstrom's testing went a step further, following a haunting path of destruction in his lab, where recordings of his final experiment play on forever. We see the Langstrom tragedy for ourselves. Kirk turned into a monster, and that monster killed his wife, Francine. Whilst the Man-Bat mission has an obvious thematic tie to legacy, Kirk is carving out his own legacy with a fascinating discovery that goes wrong. There's a metatextual tie as well. Man-Bat was the first bad guy Batman battled. Season 1 on leather wings. In it, Langstrom's transformation makes Gothamites think he's Batman. He's not motivated by curing any diseases, he's just a mad scientist splicing genes together. We need to fly to the night sky, listening out for Langstrom's echolocation. When we do, Batman needs to activate his own world Man-Bat and inject us with the antidote. Just like Firefly's mission, it's quick and dirty, challenging our traversal abilities, because sometimes Langstrom will be very high up, so we need to rely on Gotham's skyscrapers to get us into the air. Just like with almost all of these side quests, the lack of a final confrontation waters down the whole mission. But as individual vignettes, catching glimpses of Man-Bat and Detectivision while we glide around is kind of thrilling. And we're not even going to talk about that bloody jump scare.
Who dares disrupt this ritual? Batman, is that you? Get me out of here! This is sacred ground here. You do not belong here.
Jack Ryder spends his Halloween researching Deacon Blackfire, a charismatic cult leader who seems to mysteriously date back hundreds of years. He's taken over the homeless shelters of Gotham, brought people in off the street, given them a hot meal, and slowly sown seeds of dissent in the city's underbelly. In Batman Cult, he even plans and executes an assassination attempt on Jim Gordon, putting him in the hospital. Blackfire's cultish devotion to his cause even makes him beg bats to kill him in that story, believing it would transcend him into martyrdom. But hey, none of that is here. The quest is literally less than 3 minutes long, something we know because of the timer counting down. Intrepid reporter Jack Ryder gets kidnapped by Blackfire, and we need to find some brainwashed cultists to save him. Unless you're paying close attention to Ryder, regularly checking in on his tape recordings that we don't even get to listen to in full, Blackfire's presence in the game doesn't feel like an afterthought, it feels like a fart in the Sahara. Aptly introduced in Batman 666, Laszlo Valentin, aka Professor Pig, is a standout in Batman's new modern rogues gallery. In the words of his co-creator, Grant Morrison, he's, quote,
really only motivated by his art. There's no vendetta, or plan, or higher purpose. Pig doesn't follow a pattern, or even build up to a punchline. He's not really
the Dawn Guard is looking for anyone willing to fight against the growing vampire menace.
Like
What do you say?
Just wants to spread
You're not paying attention. Haven't you heard that the Hall of the Vigilance was destroyed by vampires? They never took the threat seriously, and now they paid the price. The Vigilance mostly hunt down Daedra worshippers, which is why they got torn to pieces when they... That's why our leader, Isran, is re-establishing the Dawn Guard. Real, serious. We're vampire hunters. We search out and destroy those blood-sucking scum wherever we find them. Ha! Isran's going to like you. He's up the hill in the fort. He'll decide if you're Dawn Guard material.
What's the hurry? Here to join the Dawn Guard? I'll tell you, the only thing more surprising than hearing from Isran after all these years was hearing that he wanted my help. I immediately realized things must be pretty bad. Looks like I was right. I have. There was a time years ago when we were both members of the Vigilance. Their hearts are in the right place. We left together. Isran will decide if you've got what it takes.
Why did you to learn? The Vigilance and I were finished.
His inclusion in the fantastic Batman R.I.P. arc was unnecessary, and the same can be said for his return arc, House of Hush, and every other time he's appeared as a distraction in the comics. Despite his gift as a plastic surgeon, it seems like no writers can give him a decent plan. It doesn't boil down to pretend to be Bruce Wayne for a bit. Arkham Knight is no different. 9 months after he introduced himself to Batman and Arkham City,
Vigilants are under attack everywhere. The vampires are much more dangerous than we believe.
he takes Bush's dogs hostage and threatens to kill him unless Batman brings Bruce Wayne.
I remember Keeper Cosset.
Problem is they just kind of squeeze Thomas Elliott's entire backstory into about 6 minutes of the game. Hush is a huge story.
And now that you've stirred up the vampires against you, you come begging for my protection.
Including one of the best Batman-Superman fights ever.
Cosset is dead.
The Hall of the Vigilance, everyone.
But with Thomas Elliott taking care of Lucius's fight,
You were right, we were wrong. Isn't that enough for you?
Yes, well, I never wanted any of this to happen. Our trial. So who are you?
There's still a fair few messes to clean up. On the whole, there is one major improvement with night side quests and one
Why
major
do I even
downgrade
post
when we compare them
guards?
to Arkham City.
This is the head. As you can see, we have some work to do to restore it to its former glory. We hunt down, and in the old days, the Dawn Guard kept then people. Now I'm trying to reestablish. I need someone out in the field taking the fight to the. Tolan was telling me about some cave the Vigilants were poking around in. Seemed to think it was related to these recent vampire attacks. I knew it would come to this one day. I knew. And no one believes when it comes to vampires. I've lasted this long because I don't take chances. I cover my tracks and I keep my eyes open. If you're smart, Tolan, be on your guard. Well, at least you're smart enough to want to learn more.
Just from this image, we know that we've got to grab Man-Bat 3 times before the eventually go down. We know we'll need to let Firefly get away twice.
Yes, that's your eyes open.
We know that Penguin is waiting for us at his fourth warehouse, making the previous 3 feel like a waste of time. The side quests feel predetermined because the game is so blasé about how far through them we are, and it turns what should be fun romps with Batman's villains into what feel like checklists designed by game developers rather than organic events passing over one dark night.
It's good to see you again, Batman. It's been a while.
You should take a Good for taking
Slade, codenamed Deathstroke, and I'm on the job.
It's extra frustrating with Deathstroke. He appears in the
I'll
end,
meet you in Dim Hollow.
and we know if we can crack his skull, the rest of the militia will start to leave Gotham. But rather than focus on tracking him down, scanning his signal, detecting him, Batman works
I'll
through his
meet you
overall
at Dim
checklist
Hollow.
until Deathstroke graces us with his presence through the mother of underwhelming boss fights. I like the militia checkpoints, and the bombs, and the tank side quests, and we will talk about why when we look at the overall world, but purely because of how the UI structures this side mission, it feels like Batman's wasting his time with chaff when the wheat is waiting right there. And when we turn our attention to the more story-based DLC missions, that UI issue
Stand our
really
watch
starts to
over
get in
you.
the way.
You Vigilants were never trained.
I know what you think of us. You think we're soft, that we're cowards. You think our deaths proved our weakness.
Help me. Victoria.
A classic detective mode vignette leads us to Elliott Memorial Hospital. Tonight, it's a small dungeon in the lair of the League of Assassins, led by the sick and dying Ra's al Ghul. After Arkham City, they retrieved his body for one final dip in the Lazarus Pit, but years of overexposure is rotting his body and mind. The Lazarus stream isn't all that is keeping him alive. He found nobody to take his place and carry on his legacy, and now the assassins don't know what to do. Well, that's half true. A faction of rebels led by Raish's daughter Nissa are trying to usurp him. It's a lengthy, chunky bit of DLC, taking us through the hospital, the dockyard, and into the sewers and caves to find a pure source of Dionysium. But because there's a heavier emphasis on plot and lore and story, the checklist structure suddenly makes all of this feel predestined. There's a choice at the end of this mission, but because we can trace each beat of the tale with our progress literally
Stand our
flashing
grant
up
that
every
you
10
do
minutes
not
or so,
have to face
none
the
finds any gravity associated with that choice. Nyssa being here feels random. It's like she's supposed to be a reminder of Batman's failure to save Talia in City, but instead most players are likely going to be confused about who she is and why we should care. I think Shiva should have taken her place. It would be another neat connection to Arkham Origins, and long-time players already have a relationship with her from that game. So could it be a stronger play on where our allegiances lie? Nyssa wants us to destroy the machine Raish is strapped into. He will die. If we do, she promises to lead the League of Assassins in a different direction and take her people out of Gotham. For what it's worth, every time I played Arkham Knight, I refused to destroy the Lazarus machine. Raish has lost all honor, but Batman doesn't kill. And my Batman wouldn't bend the rules like this at the end of his journey. Raish lives to fight another day. Whatever misshapen form he's bent into, his legacy continues. That feels like a punishment to himself.
What's your my weapon? I mostly just use my father's axe. The rules are clear.
Jervis Tetch's DLC is a trip down memory lane. He hands himself into the GCPD and tells the cops he's planted 3 Wonderland-themed bombs around Gotham. Deactivating them, we're exposed to his latest contraption. Batman gets lost in a storybook documenting the events of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. We see ourselves through Hatter's eyes, a monster, a villain, the antagonist of Hatter's fairy tale. That is how he remembered Batman, as a beast that stopped his madness of adventure from continuing. A lot of our recurring villains have gotten worse over the years. Riddler is a prime example, and we'll get to him shortly, but while the Mad Hatter is as dangerous as ever, there's something pathetic about his plan. It's not necessarily that he wants to best Batman. This hallucination he's concocted feels like an earnest attempt to make us see things the way Ted sees them. It's punchy, just like his past 2 appearances.
You'll get the hang of it.
A fitting end to his pain and derangement.
Take care.
I knew it would come to this one day. I knew. And no one believed. Your eyes open.
Killer Croc's side quest gives us another dungeon. He's been held captive in Iron Heights, the flying airship prison, but it mysteriously crashed into the Gotham Bay. In here, they were torturing Croc, experimenting on him. If Arkham Asylum showed us an inhumane side to treatment for the criminally insane, Iron Heights shows us this sort of cruelty isn't specific to Arkham's legacy. The environmental artists have obviously had a lot of fun sculpting a torture chamber from iron and
Take a
steel.
deep breath
Cells
and
are
let it out
hanging
with
metal
fire.
sarcophagi. The guards clearly harbor a shadow of guilt about the treatment of their prisoners. But whether or not that's because they still have a moral compass, or because
Isran
Croc's
found-
rampage
Yes?
scared them half to death, is
Stay
uncertain.
vigilant, friend.
The Warden and his team were trying to take Croc's healing factor and repurpose it. The torture has physically changed Waylon Jones into something even more terrifying and monstrous than ever before. It's not just Batman that's evolved over the past few games. Jones has as well. He's a hulking shape